Hey guys, so Jane with Later Gaming. In this video, I will be talking about what the next Battlefield game will be that will be launching in fall of 2016. So just right off the bat, I'd like to say if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe down below for much more Battlefield content, and that the footage you will be seeing in this game, in this video, is from mainly the Final Stand DLC and the community map, because a lot of these have a lot to do with sort of like Easter eggs and hints towards the next Battlefield game. So, just going to talk about when we might expect an announcement of this game. Battlefield 4 was officially announced on March 27th, I believe. So, since this game's supposed to launch around the same time Battlefield 4 did, like same time of year, we can assume that we will get an announcement at the end of March. But at this point during Battlefield 4's cycle, we had already known about the game because EA accidentally put out Battlefield 4 on a Medal of Honor Warfighter advertisement saying that if you bought Medal of Honor Warfighter, you get a discount for Battlefield 4. So, we already knew about the game. Same with Hardline, because Hardline got delayed, so we knew about it even more than a year before it came out. And this game can be expected in less than a year. I'd estimate probably around October of 2016 we can expect this game. Now we're going to talk about the 4 possible games that this could be. These all have very strong possibilities, and I will go through each possibility later. We're just going to outline the 4 possibilities right now. So there's Battlefield 1944, Battlefield Bad Company 3, Battlefield 2143, and Battlefield 5. So these are the 4 games that have possibilities of launching, and we're going to get into Battlefield 1944 and why I don't think this will be the next Battlefield game. So this would go back to World War II, be the 3rd installment of the World War II franchise. And the last game that came out was on July of 2009, and it was Battlefield 1943. So it would be coming out 7 years later than the original launch of the game. And just the main reason why I don't think they'll go back to World War II is because it's a lot different. The play style is different. They'd have to sort of scratch a lot of the innovations that they took from other games. It'd be harder to get all the vehicular gameplay that we sort of come to like in Battlefield games today. It'd be hard for customization, especially the amount of weapons, because if you're trying to make a realistic World War II game, like I would expect if they made Battlefield 1944, you'd want to use realistic World War II weapons, and there aren't that many of them. So you'd be really restricted on the amount of weapons, and this would sort of just take this game down the path of something like Titanfall, where you just don't have enough weapons to play with, and you get bored of the game fairly quickly. And this just wouldn't be good for business for Battlefield, especially considering that Hardline, while I do play it a lot, lost a lot of true Battlefield fans. And if they launched another game that would lose even more fans, it would just send the Battlefield franchise down a bad road. Now the next game is Battlefield Bad Company 3. And I personally either want this game or Battlefield 2143, and I will tell you why, but the main thing, Bad Company 3 can be most compared to the Dragon's Teeth DLC in Battlefield 4. This is because Dragon's Teeth DLC brought extreme destruction, from propaganda to Pearl Market. Those 2 maps had extreme destruction that were just really cool, and that's something that Bad Company 2 had. And Bad Company 2 was probably the most liked game in Battlefield history. It did launch 5 years ago in 2010, but many people still play it today, and it just is an amazing game that a lot of people liked. I actually personally have never played it before, but a lot of people say that it's their favorite game in the franchise. So that's another thing. A lot of like longtime Battlefield fans want Bad Company 3 to come back. The Bad Company series usually has a great campaign, which would be a change for the Battlefield franchise that usually has fairly lackluster campaigns. Bad Company is pretty team-oriented, but it's not too serious. And that's sort of something that would be good. Again, like I said, there's a lot of destruction. However, it might not do as well as other Battlefield games because of its sort of clunky feeling. They could obviously get rid of this in Bad Company 3. They could change up the movement system, but if you go back and play Bad Company 2, and I've watched a ton of gameplay of this, your soldier just moves generally slower. The reload times are slower. It's just a slower paced game. And I feel like a lot of people would not necessarily like this, just because we're so used to like Call of Duty. Battlefield 4 was very fast-paced. Battlefield Hardline's very fast-paced. And to go back to a slower-paced game like Bad Company wouldn't necessarily be great. And another thing is, a hint at this game is the M60 ULT battle pickup on the community map. This weapon looks like a ton of Bad Company weapons, and the community maps also has Bad Company 3 level destruction. So if you like the community map, that's sort of like a lot of the maps that were in Bad Company 2. That's sort of what you can expect. So if you like the community map, I would expect that you would like Battlefield Bad Company 3. But yeah, there's a small amount of hints towards this game, mainly just the M60 ULT. But we're going to move on to Battlefield 5. So obviously most of you will know about it. The franchise went Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline, and that's mainly the main reason why I don't think it will be Battlefield 5. Because it's just been Battlefield 3, then Battlefield 4. There's been so many main franchise games in a row that I don't necessarily know if it would be good to do that. And especially since you can see that Battlefield 2 was launched in 2005. And then it went Battlefield 2142, then it went Battlefield Bad Company, then it went Battlefield 1943, then it went Bad Company 2, and then it went Battlefield 3. So Battlefield 3 didn't come out until 5 years after Battlefield 2 came out. So if you're thinking that, they wouldn't take this long of a break from the mainline franchise, they have done it before, and I wouldn't be surprised if they would do it again. The main thing that Battlefield 5, it would be 3 main things in a row, and there wouldn't be much of a differentiator in the franchise. One of the main complaints of Battlefield 4 was that it was too similar to Battlefield 3, and it didn't innovate too much. This would be an even bigger complaint of Battlefield 5 because they would have even less to innovate, having Battlefield 4 just been launched, and Battlefield Hardline is a completely different franchise. It's the farthest away from any Battlefield game that we've ever had. So, and with the way that DICE LA's developed Battlefield 4 from launch to now, it's like a completely different game. To be able to innovate even more into Battlefield 5, I would just find that really hard to do. So I honestly, the least likeliness for me is Battlefield 1944, then Battlefield 5 is the second that I just don't think it'll be Battlefield 5, and if they did it, I would have trouble seeing how they would innovate the game. Now, finally, Battlefield 2143. Now, Battlefield 2142 was launched almost 10 years ago in 2006, and if this game were to launch, if it would be 2143, it would launch 10 years later. Now, Battlefield was a bit of ahead of the curve as far as futuristic games go. They beat most people, and it was one of the first futuristic games, which I think really helped it. And I believe that this would not necessarily help them again, because so many companies like Titanfall, Destiny, Call of Duty have gone into the future, and I don't know how Battlefield would be able to differentiate themselves, except that it's really the main game for vehicles, and you don't really have that futuristic vehicular gameplay that you get in Battlefield. So another thing is the Final Stand DLC is a prequel leading up to 2143. Between the Titan on Hangar 21, there's literally in the giant hangar, that's a hangar for a Titan battleship that will fly up in the sky and would be a game mode in Battlefield 2143. So, and as well as that, there's been a ton of different things. There's been Titan plans all over the Final Stand DLC. It's a prequel to Battlefield 2143. I don't know if that's a big enough sign for you guys, but the fact that Final Stand, the last DLC of Battlefield 4, is a prequel to Battlefield 2143, well, technically 2142, I just find that to be a fact that they still are aware of the Battlefield 21 franchise and that they would definitely be willing to go back to it. And as well as that, if you go onto the community map and you go to the crate near Objective A, if you try to do it in a closed server, the sign doesn't show up, but sometimes a sign will show up that says Jusqu'à 2142, which is French, and it translates to closed until 2142. So this sort of mystery crate that we've seen on this map says it's closed until 2142, which is even more of it. Just so many Easter eggs that lead towards this game. As well as that, they could innovate so much more if they went for a 2143 game. They would be able to, I don't know if they'd add jetpacks or not. I don't think Battlefield would. But they could just go in so many ways with all the futuristic guns. And the guns in the game are real guns that are used by militaries. So if they were to go into the future, they can make up all the guns they want, and they could just have they could go in whichever direction they want with all the guns and not be held down by those realistic military guidelines. As well as that, the Titan gameplay would be so cool. For example, Carrier Assault was sort of like the Titan mode in Battlefield 2142, where you can board a Titan and fight over it, which is just so cool. And if they were to go in that direction, it would be really awesome. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe down below. But I will be keeping you up to date if we get any information on the next Battlefield game. But that's what it is for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.